Now, if there is one thing that I've missed this year, it is having that ability to hop on a plane and go and travel to a different country. If you know me, you'll know that I love traveling and having a holiday or two. But for the best part of this year, that has been off the cards, and companies like EasyJet have felt the full force of this. EasyJet is one of the most recognisable names when it comes to UK airlines. They was founded 25 years ago back in 1995 and are known for being a low-cost airline delivering flights predominantly throughout Europe to over 30 different countries. Today we're going to have a look at EasyJet and see if at their current prices they are now a buy. Please remember that I am not a financial advisor, so if you are planning on investing into the stock market, you should always do your own research first. And as always, I'd appreciate if you could hit the like and subscribe to my channel. It really does help me out and it is appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into it. So EasyJet currently sits in the FTSE 250. It was in the FTSE 100, which is the top 100 companies in the UK in order of market cap. However, it was pushed out back in June due to losing half of its value thanks to the global situation. And just like pretty much every other airline or travel company out there, its share price has taken an absolute hammering. So pre-crash, EasyJet was trading at around about £15 per share, and then in February, March time it crashed down 67%. It then did go on to see a recovery. Back about June time it was trading around about £9 per share, and since then it has been on a downward trend. Now it is pretty much at those original crash levels again. So if you thought you missed the boat buying at that first original crash prices, well, this could be a second opportunity, especially if it continues to go lower. So let's have a look at what some analysts are predicting for EasyJet's future and have a look at some of its financials. So EasyJet currently has a market cap of 2.4 billion, which is pretty good for a UK company, and it is up there one of the biggest UK and EU airlines. If we look at what its share price is doing, I know we've already touched on this, it's currently at £5.33 per share, and that has been pretty consistent with what it has been doing all throughout September, like late £4 and £5. It hasn't really moved too much. It did shoot up back in May time, June. We saw most airlines and travel companies start to go up around this time, and it hit highs at there about almost £9 per share. And since it has dropped back off, and it is now pretty much again close to the crash level. But if we look at what it's been doing over the last 5 years, it's been pretty consistent. Okay, we've seen some drops and some rises and drops, but generally the lowest it ever was in this time period was around about £8.70 per share, which is way off what we currently are at. And obviously we know the reason for the sell-off due to people not being able to travel basically. And at this price, analysts are giving it a valuation of 77.5% undervalued, which is absolutely huge. When we look at the current price of £5.33, fair value being £23.67, this valuation is very good, and there's a long way to go until getting anywhere near fair value. And I think it can go up again in the long term. If we look at its PE ratio as well, it sits at 8.6, which is very good compared to obviously the market. We know that this industry is very low right now, 10 times what you can see right there. However, 8.6 is low enough to be a good valuation, but not low enough to be worried about this company. You know, 8.6 is quite good because it means people have faith, but it also means that at its current price, you could argue that it is good value for money. The future growth for EasyJet in the next 1 to 3 years is projected to be 94.5%. That's annual earnings growth, which is absolutely huge, and I will take that any day for my earnings to grow 94.5%. And I won't be surprised if this does happen and grow this quickly, because you know a lot of people have missed out this year, and if we can go away and there's even a vaccine by next year, then a lot more people are going to be going away than probably expected. And if we look at the earnings revenue growth forecast here, obviously we've gone into a loss this year due to no flights basically, and that was gone into a loss there from September time. So currently down 900 million in earnings, and it is projected to still make a loss there until September next year, obviously bringing it back, and then eventually again predicted by 2022 to be back in the profit and making earnings there of 281 million. And looking at their future return on equity for this in the next 3 years, predicted to be 14.5%, which is a lot higher than the rest of the industry. So the travel industry is quite low compared to the market and a lot of other companies out there. However, this is going to be a lot longer to recover. Okay, we're not going to see a recovery anytime soon. However, you can see here that it is higher than airlines of 11.6. So moving on to their financial position here. Assets 2 billion and liabilities 3.72 billion. So the assets short term do not outweigh the liabilities, and the long-term assets do though. They've got a lot of long-term assets, 6.17 billion. That's obviously all the airplanes, etc. Compared to the 2.3 in liabilities. However, short-term it doesn't quite outweigh it. But if we look at their actual balance sheet, we can see they've got the 1.3 billion sitting on that balance sheet, as opposed to 5.3 in assets. But the cash is what we like to see here. Cash and short-term investments, 1.4 billion, which is a nice amount of cash and short-term investments sitting on there. So if they wanted to, they could use this to pay off that outstanding debt right there. And speaking about debt, if we just quickly have a look at their debt to equity, that currently sits at 63%, which is actually pretty good, especially for an airline, and in its current situation, that is quite good, okay? It obviously was a lot better. You can see over the years it's been pretty consistently 30% or 35%. And we have closed the gap somewhat this year, and it is now at 63%. However, I've seen a lot of other companies in a far worse position here. 63% is quite good. And if we add in the cash and equivalents here, it has been fairly consistent as well. You know, we've got 1.3 billion there, 1.37, and yet still 1.3. So it's kind of stayed around that in terms of its cash and equivalents. Now, just to touch on this, the dividend yield. Obviously, we know a lot of travel companies. Good thing about them is they do pay a high dividend. And obviously, this is not paying a dividend right now at this moment in time just because of what's going on. But most of these companies will reinstate, and I do think EasyJet will reinstate it as well once it goes into some proper profits on the table, basically. But it was paying at 8.24%, which gives you an indication of what it could be again in the future, or even if it was half that. It's quite a nice dividend yield. And the last thing I really want to touch on here is insider trading. This is quite good to know, actually. It tells you what people are buying and selling within the company, and we can see it's kind of been a fair mix. In about the last 6 to 9 months, roughly the same amount of shares were sold as bought. So I'm not sure what that is exactly about there. Maybe that's some sort of balancing of a portfolio or something like that. But same amount were bought as sold. And then again, in the last 3 to 6 months, we have another 8,800 shares bought. And that is at a value there of 56,000. That's quite a lot of shares, 8,800. So, and that was by 2 separate individuals within inside the company. So the main thing we have to bear in mind with EasyJet is this is in the travel sector. So we can look at the earnings, etc. But really, I don't think any of us are predicting any good earnings from EasyJet. Whilst it can give us a good indication, like I say, this industry is pretty much shut down for the time being. So none of us should be really expecting good earnings from EasyJet anytime soon. This is a highly speculative industry, therefore a highly speculative stock. And I do think it's going to take a lot longer to recover, and it's going to be a long time until we see it hitting all-time highs anytime soon. So like I said, this is a high spec value stock. Now, I do think this is a value stock because if we look at its PE ratio, it is extremely low. And if we look at where it was trading at and how it has been performing over the years, it's been pretty good. So if it goes anywhere near those levels again, then you are getting very good value for money with EasyJet. So would I buy at these prices? Well, for me, like I said, EasyJet is a value stock, and I don't see this industry going anywhere. Over time, I do think this industry will recover. And I already own shares in EasyJet, but if it was to drop to 500 or let's say like late 400s, etc., then I may well consider adding to that position. Personally, I'm a long-term investor, so I'm not looking to make a profit in the next month or year. And realistically, I do think it's going to take a lot longer for any sort of real recovery. So let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on EasyJet. Is this a stock that you hold, maybe you're buying or adding to? Let me know down below. And as always, guys, if you have found this video useful or interesting, or you just want to help me out, please hit the like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. It really is appreciated. Thanks for watching, and until next time,